Hey students, welcome to week 4 of Leadership in Business, mba617. Going to do a quick review of what we're talking about this week in week 4. Some of the learning outcomes for this week, we're going to look at authentic leadership, the authentic leadership style. And we're going to spend a little time just looking at that from a couple different perspectives. We're going to talk about servant leadership, which has grown in popularity over the last 40 or 50 years or so. And then we're going to look at, out of the Neckmans and Houghton book, some things about natural reward strategies that we can reward ourselves with as part of the self-leadership agenda. And then also going to take a look at mental stimulation and how that can lead to enjoyment of tasks and jobs and that sort of thing. So, all right, here we go. This is a quick review. You've probably seen this out of the Northhouse book. On the section of authentic leadership. I broke this discussion just briefly into two different areas, two different views. One is authentic leadership as it's viewed in practice. So by that I mean when researchers develop a framework and whatnot, they look at both the theory side of it, like what should it be, and they look at in practice, how is it actually working. And in the case of authentic leadership, it's still a fairly new leadership style that's been identified, and so things are changing with it often. I think it was identified actually like around 2005 or so. Not that old by leadership style standards and research standards and that sort of thing. But in this practice view, in practice if you will, you'll see that the authentic leader has these 5 different characteristics which drive some tangible things that we can look at and see in everyday life. For example, an authentic leader is said to have values. Quick note, so a lot of researchers talk about this connection between values and behaviors. One researcher that I like, he's a believer, and this is coming from an education viewpoint, but it still works. In his work, he says he has found that beliefs drive beliefs drive values, and values drive behaviors. Behaviors are actions, things that we can, again, see. So belief drives values, values drive behaviors. And so you'd see that in this part of the authentic leadership in practice, the framework and what that looks like. We've talked before about a little bit about Daniel Pink and some of his work. I don't have his book here, but where purpose drives our passion. And these are kind of, the arrow goes both ways. It's somewhat reciprocal as well. Passion sometimes drives our behavior. In the leadership book, the self-leadership book, we've looked at this connection as well, self-discipline, self-leadership. And then there are other research areas in the areas of heart and compassion and connection between relationships and connectedness. Some of the leader-member exchange research talked about this. So the authentic leadership framework, at least in practice, pulls together a lot of stuff that we've already been studying, that we've been looking at, and packages it together in a slightly different view. On the theory side of that, what researchers say is that people who are an authentic leader are self-aware. They have relational transparency. They have this way to be balanced in how they view the world and how they go about navigating their values and their morals and that sort of thing. And they also have this strong ethic, this strong moral code. In this particular slide, the author decided that they were going to connect this to what's the impact on the organization. So I thought that was interesting. In theory, people who are authentic leaders have these sorts of characteristics, this sort of DNA, if you will, and it drives these sorts of behaviors and changes in an organization. So take a look at that. And by the way, I put all the links for these at the bottom of the PowerPoint, so you can always go look for them and find a little more information on these if you want to. Let's talk about servant leadership for a moment, the other topic for this week. You've probably already figured this out, but traditional leadership, leaders at the top, influencing followers. In the servant leadership model, it's flipped upside down. Leaders are at the bottom, and there's this exchange, not unlike the leader-member exchange theory and some of those theories that we looked at where leaders and followers impact each other. But in this model, the leader really becomes a servant. And when you read the text, I think there are 10 different characteristics of a servant leader. and some people have added actually an 11th one. I wanted to look at more of a practical look at it, like what really does a servant leader look like? Well, they're self-aware, they're humble, they have integrity, they're results oriented, they listen to people, they trust people, they coach people. So this is a little bit different look at those 10 or so leadership characteristics that are part of servant leadership, but more just through I guess a practical lens that you might see every day in life that you can check off. And who knows, maybe this is you. I don't know if anybody really owns all these characteristics or not, but you know what? It's a great way to look at the person that you work for and see if they possess these types of characteristics. It might even be good for you to look at yourself in the mirror and say, is this me or not? So, okay. The other topic is natural rewards and focus. It's out of again, it's out of this book here. And the only thing I want to say about that, there's a lot of good information in chapter 4. Like, it is the most heavily marked up chapter for me in this book because it's very practical. But the idea is this: if you focus on things that have like this natural reward for you, things that you say that you like to do, all right. And when you do those things that feel good to you, they give you kind of like this good feeling inside. Then what turns in is they're more pleasurable to you, and you end up doing them more, and you end up doing them better. So like there's this cyclical effect. They call it self-efficacy, self-determination. But you focus on things you like, and it gives you this pleasurable feeling, like it's resonating inside of you, and so you do more of that. Well, we looked at the other way the book says it is that you have self-control. You have control over the task that you're doing. You are competent in what you're doing, and it's purposeful. You may recognize that from last week or the week 2 weeks ago from Daniel Pink, who also talked about it. I think he used the words autonomous, competency, and purpose. But it's the same idea. When you have control over your domain, your work day, your work content, when you're competent in what you're doing, it's like it's in your wheelhouse, and it's purposeful for you, that drives a lot of natural rewards for you that in turn creates more reason for you to focus and do a good job because it feels good to you, if you will. Okay, so just a reminder, all these dates, no changes in terms of the days that they're due, dialogues, applications, quizzes, projects, and that sort of thing. And don't forget, if you ever want to talk, I'm usually online on Wednesdays, 8:30 p.m. Eastern in virtual office hours. And if you ever want a different time to talk, just text me, call me, send me a message, or email, whatever. We can always arrange for a different time to chat too. All right, listen. God loves you. Remember, He's been on His throne. He always will be. Have a great day.